Hey guys, how y'all doing? Chris here from Merge, Mississippi. I want to welcome you guys to the first episode of 2026. I hope y'all had a happy new year and a very Merry Christmas. Lots to unpack tonight. We're going to just kind of go over an overview of what went on in 2025, kind of what was covered by the Conservative Coalition. As you know, we are a program under the Conservative Coalition that is really working to help unite conservatives for a stronger Magnolia State. We are officially launching in 2026, although we did a soft launch in 2025. Our agenda is simply to focus on building a unified group, a movement across the state, if you will, powered by ideas similar to Turning Point, based on the principles of freedom, faith, and family. So we'll combine grassroots activism, digital engagement, real world events to help empower students, parents, pastors, business leaders, elected officials right here in Mississippi. Again, our goal is to help mobilize these groups to help defend conservative values, drive policy reform, and leave Mississippi freer and more prosperous. So I'm going to outline some of our agenda here in a minute, but first I kind of want to go over the Conservative Coalition's email that we just sent out that kind of helped officially launch us, and kind of what they covered. Obviously, as 2025 came to a close, they wanted to say thank you. We want to say thank you for kind of, standing with us to help defend liberty, property rights, individual freedom, like I said, right here in Mississippi. Because of supporters like you, CCMS was able to deliver real results, results that wouldn't have happened without action and resolve. So we'll get into this. There's a lot to cover. Like I said, I'm going to kind of go over and different topics and things that I kind of want to touch on that we'll dive into over the next few weeks. Because there's so much information here, I don't want to overload you, but I do want to, like I said, go over some of the things that were highlighted in 2025. That year proved a simple truth. Freedom survives only when conservatives engage and, when they organize and they fight back. And together, they were able to help defend several core principles and help advance leaders who stand for the people. So, and this helps to, not help the expansion of government control. Obviously, we're for smaller government. And we're also launching a statewide civic engagement initiative, and that is Merge Mississippi. Like I said, it's to help unite bold conservatives to expand our impact this year in 2026. Another thing that they were proud to announce was the Conservative Coalition Mississippi PAC, a separate state political action committee that was focused exclusively on helping elect proven conservative candidates. The PAC exists to support leaders who will defend property rights, protect personal freedoms, and resist government overreach. So the work ahead is going to require resources. So obviously, we will ask you to make a generous contribution if you can, and strongly consider a recurring monthly contribution to the PAC. Your support directly fuels candidate support, grassroots organizing, and conservative victories across Mississippi. Together we win, but only if we act on it. Some of the 2025 advocacy successes that we'll kind of discuss. Coalition members across the state took action where it mattered, mostly in Lee County and Rankin County. The local board of supervisors proposed actions that would have eroded landowner rights and set some pretty crazy precedents over government overreach. Coalition members stood shoulder to shoulder with affected citizens, mobilized grassroots opposition, educated the public, and applied legal policy pressure. Um, because of this effort, both attempts were defeated, clear victories for property rights and limited government. You might have remembered that going on here in Rankin County when it had to deal with the mobile home kind of fiasco that was going on. The Conservative Coalition also activated members to oppose legislation granting immunity to agricultural, pesticide, and herbicide producing companies. So basically, what that legislation would have shielded chemical manufacturers of agricultural products from being sued by people who'd been harmed by this product. So if you had dealt with any kind of harmful reactions or had been affected by that, it would have prevented anybody from suing those companies. But due to public opposition, the bill was killed in committee. So big win there. And Oxford members honored Mississippi's January 6th defendants. Obviously, it's an anniversary of that is today. That were pardoned by President Trump. The Oxford Coalition members successfully opposed the rezoning of an unwanted asphalt plant near Taylor, Mississippi, by organizing residents, engaging state officials, and applying public pressure. The effort to build the plant was ultimately rescinded, protecting family farms and private property. So we're going to talk about one of our candidates for governor a little bit, who is Andy Gibson, who is really for that movement of protecting family farms. A new initiative, like I said, the CCMS PAC, and of course, Merge Mississippi. We're proud to announce those major initiatives as we head into 2026. Like I said, the Conservative PAC is a separate state political action committee dedicated to identifying those true conservatives who walk the talk. The PAC exists to elect leaders committed to limited government, constitutional fidelity, and personal freedom. So 2026, we're not just going to sit on the sidelines. There's new momentum. There's a lot of great things going on. Some leadership that has really stepped up to support what we're trying to do for the next generation here in Mississippi. Some of the candidates that they proudly endorsed were Mr. Don Hartness, a veteran with a proven track record of supporting conservative causes. Don won the special election in State Senate District 42, so congratulations to him. And Michael McClendon, a proven conservative who successfully won re-election for State Senate District 1 as well. Congratulations to him. These endorsements reflect the PAC's commitment to backing candidates who resist government overreach and defend property rights. Your support matters. So, like I said, as we look forward to 2026, there's still a lot of work to be done. We need your help to identify, recruit, and hold conservative candidates accountable. We talked about that early on in some of our earlier podcasts, that this is about accountability. This is about finding those people, making sure that they align with the biblical principles, and that they are walking the talk that they say. We're also going to need your help providing voter education resources like voter guides, and also defending and advancing these principles, like I just said. So, um, any contribution you can make to that really helps. Like I said, it helps fuel grassroots momentum, helps secure a freer, stronger Mississippi. All is super important. And then, like I said, we'll jump into this agenda here in a minute. Merge Mississippi, it was formerly Stand the Gap. We decided to rebrand and kind of go a little bit of a different route as far as the name goes, just for the sake of what we want to turn this into. And it is a faith-driven initiative. We talked about that early on. Like I said, of CCMS, that was built on faith, family, and freedom. Those foundations are under attack, and what Merge Mississippi is trying to do is it's rising to unite bold conservatives through powerful media, fearless messaging, and statewide events. This is a movement of action, bringing together young voters, parents, pastors, business leaders, and elected officials, like I said, who are ready to stand in the gap and lead with conviction. We now have over 30,000 YouTube subscribers that we merged with, and we're already delivering conservative content that informs and motivates toward action. Some of the legislative priorities for 2026, real quick. In the upcoming Mississippi legislative session, we will be advocating for prohibiting discrimination based on vaccination status, providing strong election integrity measures, and protecting property rights from government overreach. Members will be kept informed of the specific bills we're tracking once the session begins, which started today. They'll be in session for 90 days. And our folks and friends over at Empower Mississippi have a great tool on their website that helps you track that tool, and helps you get connected with your representatives as well. Mississippi needs your help in electing strong, verified conservatives to advance this legislation and protect conservative values. So, like I said, any kind of donation or contribution you can make to that, gratitude is much there. Um, we're super excited about Merge Mississippi and what we're going to be doing this upcoming year. We've set out a pretty detailed agenda. We'll have it up on our website soon, that I want to share with you a little bit on, because it's really important that we're organized, and that we do this, not just um, off the flight, but that everything is structured quarterly, so it's for actual actionable implementation. Excuse me. These are all goals that we intend to fulfill this year, and we can't do it without your help. In Q1, we are theming it Ignite the Spark. We're going to kick off with a targeted recruitment drive. We're going to be leveraging some of TPUSA's networks to help partner with college campuses like Ole Miss and Mississippi State that we've already done. They're helping us um, formulate some chapters over there and get things going with them. We'll have some sign up forms on Merge Mississippi as well, with incentives like free Merge MS swag for people that are joining us. We hope to have that up by February. And then we're also going to host a virtual info session via Zoom to promote what we're doing. And we're going to do that through our email blasts, Facebook. We're going to help share that with conservative groups in Jackson, Biloxi, and Tupelo. And we hope to do some other things like refer a Patriot program where members get exclusive access to premium content for referrals. So some of that's stuff that's really going to help get the traction moving for us. Also, this month on the 21st, we intend on doing a statewide virtual launch rally with some featured speakers from different backgrounds, local pastors, elected officials, with a live Q&A. In February, we hope to also kick off our campus kickoff tours. We're going to be visiting some campuses, doing some tabling. We might have some things like free coffee, conservative literature, and we'll be doing some policy discussions as well. Our regional meetups that have been going on for a long time with CCMS will continue. They're going to be doing that in three regions: the North, the Central, and South Mississippi. They're already taking place, but now Merge Mississippi is going to be there. So we can connect with you guys and help you get involved, help you get your students involved, anyone that you want to who wants to help this movement build. Our outreach is going to consist of partnering with local churches, businesses. We're going to be using the hashtag MergeMS 2026 and United for MS, hashtag United for MS. Like I said, targeting the 18 to 35-year-old demographic. That's the group that is really on social media right now. So we're going to be using Instagram, TikTok Shorts, like I said, our YouTube channel, and we're going to be going over, conservative issues like school choice, border security, and we are in the works of collaborating with some influencers that are also going to help us get these things moving as well. So our digital focus is mainly going to be the podcast. But we'll have some stuff going out every week. I know, like on Monday, we're going to be doing a faith focus. Wednesday, we'll be sharing Tuesday, we're going to be doing our podcast weekly. So that'll drop every Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, with no technical difficulties, we hope. Wednesday, we'll be sharing our family focus. Thursday, we'll be doing some legislative updates, and then we'll be doing Freedom Friday. So we're excited about that. And like I said, we'll be doing some interviews with local leaders as well, pastors, business leaders, people that you want to hear from. And like I said, we're going to be asking some of these hard questions. We're going to be talking about some of the things that they're working on, the things that they're putting out there, so we can help back that. And like I said, we'll be doing that via Facebook, Instagram, tracking statewide news and conservative commentary. So on top of this, like I just said, legislative session is in. So you can sign up for updates and important information. That sign up will be on the website as well. It's already on CCMS right now. And like I said a minute ago, Empower has a great tool for using as well. In Q2, we're going to theme that grow the base. We're going to be introducing tiered memberships with event perks. We're going to be doing a mentorship program. I discussed that previously. We're going to be doing stuff with the veterans. We're going to be doing stuff for young people, for one-on-one guidance to help them kind of navigate this crazy world that we're in, to navigate the politics of Mississippi, and to help them with some faith aspects as well. We're going to be looking at underserved rural areas. We're going to be doing some door-to-door canvassing, and training conservatives in messaging and how we get that broadcasted to people as well. So in April, we're going to be looking at some policy workshops, some virtual and in-person sessions on key reforms like tax cuts, election integrity. In May, we're going to be looking at an event in Jackson with some speakers, music, family. We'll be getting into the summertime then, so we're hoping for good weather. You know how Mississippi weather is. We've had a pretty warm winter, I feel like, so we're we're hoping that all that's going to go well. We're looking to get that attended by a large group of people as well. In June, we'll be doing a leadership summit for mainly strategy sessions with some breakout groups, outreach tactics, things like that. So we're really trying to equip anybody wanting to get involved. We feel like that's super important, and we're going to be providing you with the tools to do that. Our outreach in that quarter is also going to be to expand to community partnerships and sponsorships. We're going to be looking at our text messaging platform that's really going to get ramped up. It's already out right now. So you can sign up for that and you can get real-time text messages on what's going on in the legislative session with instant alerts on state legislation. Like I said, we'll be partnering with some of our friends that already have Turning Point chapters across the state for cross promotion to help them share their message. They'll be sharing ours as well. And we'll also be ramping up our podcast, like I said, doing guest commentary with state representatives, local elected officials, business leaders, pastors, and the average Joe, anybody that has a story that they want to share, because the whole point here is we connect you with people that are just like you. And, we want to make this accessible to everybody, excuse me. So Q3, our theme is going to be Stand the Gap, right? That's what we started on. It's going to be to drive policy and community impact. We're going to be focusing on our professional networks there, working with local businesses. We're going to be doing some leader membership and networking perks as well. Some of the events we'll be working on in July, we're going to be working on voter registration drives. In August, we'll be doing a free faith and freedom conference, excuse me, which we'll be partnering with pastors, Tri-County, probably statewide, hopefully emphasizing on moral issues. That's probably going to be the bigger one. We got a really exciting venue planned for that. In September, our grassroots training camps will be kicking off. We'll be teaching advocacy skills like lobbying and media training. Our outreach during that time is going to be to intensify the door knocking, phone banking in key districts ahead of the midterm elections. Excuse me. We're going to collaborate with local elected officials for town halls and really develop our volunteer ambassador program as well. We'll be at the Mississippi State Fair, hopefully. Merge Mississippi will have a spot out there so we can get people engaged there. Our digital focus then is going to be to really launch our newsletter that's going to be going out more frequently, curating top news and action items throughout the state. In Q4, we're going to really focus on reflection and acceleration. Our theme there is going to be build for the future. We're going to be doing some holiday themed drives, give the gift of freedom memberships. We're also going to expand into our high school chapters at that point. So we're really excited about that for our long-term pipeline of getting our young folks involved and a place where they can come for content, where they can find out how to get involved, how to run elections, how to help look for those conservative candidates, even how to run for office if they want to. So in October, we're going to work on voter mobilization rallies. November is going to be our unity dinners. And then in December, we're planning a year-end gala to celebrate achievements of 2026 and announce our 2027 plans. So a lot of exciting stuff planned. Like I said, we're going to evaluate partnerships and refine them based on the feedback we get. So we're going to be doing this long term and constantly, and be consistent with it is our plan. Um, this agenda, really positions Merge Mississippi as Mississippi's leading conservative force, right? So we're not trying to compete with anybody. We are trying to be our own thing, and we encourage you to join today at mergems.com, mergems.org, and let's make Mississippi a new turning point right here in Mississippi. That's our plan. So we'll jump into some of the other things that I kind of wanted to discuss this evening. There's a lot going on. We're going to talk about some local things. We're also going to talk about some national things. Well, really one national thing. There's so much going on in the world today that we could talk for hours. But my goal is to really focus on some things that have kind of stuck out to me, and I think they have stuck out to people on social media and what's going on right now. But also things that you may not know about, and things that we want you to know about. Obviously, we have a governor's race coming up in 2027. We're calling that the Andy versus Shad race. There's some other people that have dropped their hat in, I believe, and we're gonna bring their names up in a minute. But right now, I just kind of wanted to discuss a little bit about those candidates. Like I said, we have Andy Gibson, current Commissioner of Agriculture and Commerce. He is Maha all the way. That's Make America Healthy Again. He has aligned himself as a conservative, principled candidate that has always been on the side of fighting with President Trump. His platform is focused on issues like family, values, food security, streamlining government, and conservative principles. His campaign website is andygibson.com if you want to go check out more on him. He's described himself as a proven fiscal conservative and vowed to fight for Mississippi farmers, ranchers, loggers, excuse me, farmers, ranchers, loggers, and landowners against radical left-wing regulations. Gibson is an attorney and a Baptist pastor. He was a statewide rep when the Governor Phil Bryant appointed him to be the state's agriculture commissioner in 2018. During his time as a lawmaker, he backed legislation banning abortions once a heartbeat becomes detectable here in Mississippi, declaring personhood for fertilized eggs and allowing guns in houses of worship. That's to help protect those houses of worship. He also backed a 15-week abortion ban that ultimately led to the overturning of Roe v. Wade and the downfall of federal abortion rights. Last year, he publicly spoke out against passing a law to protect in vitro fertilization as well. So he's very pro-life. We see that in some of the things that he's worked on in the past. Some of the other key policy ideas on his platform include agriculture on rural support. He's a strong advocate for farmers, like I said, ranchers, pledges to fight against excessive regulations at both the state and federal level. He's big on taxes, opposes any tax increase. He's expressed support for ideas like eliminating property taxes, drawing inspiration from proposals in other states, similar to Florida's approach. He's big on public safety and law enforcement, backs the boys in blue, excuse me, men and women in blue, and is big on maintaining peace, especially in high crime areas. He's done a great job over there at the fairgrounds of the Mississippi State Fair, supporting local police and sheriff departments and preserving law and order. Economic development. He draws on his private sector experience to promote growth and community development, focused on being a deal maker to attract businesses and jobs. On infrastructure, he prioritizes investments in critical areas, water systems, energy, transportation, and commerce to support long-term needs. On government efficiency and freedom, he calls for a more streamlined state government that does more with less taxpayer money. He advocates for an agenda of freedom to preserve liberties in education, healthcare, insurance, and taxes. And I think he's done a great job at putting his platform out there. Overall, Gibson frames his campaign around making Mississippi a better place to live, work, and raise families through that proven conservative leadership. As early as 2026, his platform remains focused on these core conservative priorities, like I said, with an emphasis on putting Mississippi first and empowering people over government. Shad White, we'll discuss a little bit. Other potential candidates as well: Lynn Finch, Secretary of State Michael Watson. We've heard possibly, maybe not. Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann, Public Service Commissioner Chris Brown, and some outsiders like Tommy Duff and Gerard Gibert as well. Um, a little bit on Shad White, his political career. In 2018, Governor Bryant appointed him as a state auditor following the resignation of Stacey Pickering. He became the first millennial to hold statewide office in the Deep South. He ran unopposed in 2019 and was reelected in 23. He defeated Larry Bradford with about 59% of the vote. His current term runs until 2028. He's built a reputation as a tough watchdog on government spending, so we really appreciate that and like that, especially on spending and fraud. His office is credited with overcoming one of the largest public fraud cases in Mississippi history, the welfare scandal involving misappropriation of TANF funds. Estimated over $77 million here in Mississippi. That case gained a lot of national attention due to the involvement of figures like NFL Hall of Famer Brett Favre, which actually led to the lawsuits, guilty pleas, and ongoing trials, with major ones started in early of this year, I believe. So White also authored a book, the scandal, Mississippi Swindle, Brett Favre and the Welfare Scandal that shocked America, that published in 2024. Some of his recent activities and priorities include focus on fraud investigations, government efficiency, and recoveries of taxpayer funds. His office regularly announces arrests and recoveries related to the misuse of public money. So we appreciate that, and his work there and looking out for taxpayer funds. Um, for the 2026 legislative session, he pushed priorities including making illegal immigration a state crime to aid federal enforcement, imposing fees on remittances sent abroad, reducing government waste, which is basically capping office space and vehicle spending, and reviving a whistleblower reward program to incentivize reporting corruption. He has faced some controversy on this. Obviously, whenever people are getting called out, they don't like it, including public feuds with lawmakers over his office's authority. They try to cut out some of his authority and ability to do some of this stuff. Some of his criticism on a social media post. Um, for they say we was targeting private citizens and jurisdictional disputes with the attorney general over a welfare scandal litigation. But he's expressed his interest in running for governor in 2027. Um, Whenever term limited Governor Tate Reeves steps down, and he's positioned himself also as a fiscal conservative and anti-waste government. So two really really good candidates there. I think that's where the competition is going to be. I think those are the two that you should be paying attention to and watching the most. We'll be sharing more on them as the campaigns unfold. We're still pretty early. That is a 2027 race. So they have a year on the campaign trail, and it is going to be rough out there, but we wish them both the best. Putting yourself out there to run for office is extremely difficult, and it takes a lot. So we really appreciate what they're doing and putting themselves out there, and they have both been doing great work. It's going to be a really hard choice. We are undecided here as far as me and my home, but some people have already made up their mind. I don't blame them for why they haven't. But I know me, we're gonna be looking at them and kind of looking at some of the biblical aspects behind their platforms and what they do. I know Andy Gibson is also, like I said, a pastor. So that makes that really attractive to me. Shad White's ability to audit and to look at waste and spending is super attractive to me as well, because I think that's important. It's really overlooked nowadays. So a lot of that is one of those things, or some of those things that we should really be interested in. I think there are two really great candidates. Um, One of the other things I wanted to bring up, now that we're kind of talking about elections real quick. We have Mississippi State Senator Chris McDaniel who made a recent post, just kind of about elections, that kind of ruffled some feathers. It actually, he said he was going to ruffle some feathers, and we knew that it would. We weren't surprised, but you know what? Kudos to him for what he did. Chris has obviously a background. He's known for his views on government reform. He's got some credibility in engaging the system, running for statewide office as well as U.S. Senate. Um, his post carries several themes that I think resonate with biblical principles, and we'll go over that a little bit. While this is mainly a political post that was focused on American governance, this still has an emphasis on truth telling, accountability, and the consequences of action and diligence. It also shows internal transformation and kind of aligns with scriptural teachings on kind of what human nature and society and moral responsibility is. So I'm going to read it for you real quick. I've talked to Chris recently. He's a big supporter of what we're doing. We've supported him in the past, and I think he's one of the good ones, and we're always going to talk about the good ones. So I'll read this for you real quick. It starts by saying, "This is going to hurt some feelings, but it must be said for the sake of our nation. After 20 years in politics, 16 of them in office, I've learned something hard about our system. Most people don't understand how it works, and worse, many don't want to. We still teach civics like it's a coloring book. Three branches, a bill comes to law, checks and balances. We act like the government runs on parchment and good intentions, but it doesn't. It never has, and it runs on power, and power follows numbers. Here's the part nobody likes hearing. Reform doesn't fail because nobody fights for it. It fails because there aren't enough votes to pass it. Whether income tax elimination, term limits, reducing the national debt, or a dozen other conservative reforms that would bring real structural change, we don't have the numbers, so let's discuss why. Democrats don't support those ideas. That's not controversial. That's reality. But what nobody wants to talk about is the other half of the problem. Most Republicans don't support them either. They're there simply to follow orders. You know the ones. Leadership controls committee assignments, calendars, fundraising, and future opportunities. Cross them and you're punished. Fall in line and you're rewarded. That's how the system sustains itself, not with debate, but with discipline. So when someone says, "Why haven't you done anything?" I have to stop myself from laughing. I've filed the bills, I've forced the debates, I've taken the arrows, and I've said the things you're not supposed to say out loud. What I can't do is manufacture votes, and here's the part that really stings. The same GOP incumbents who block reform keep getting renominated in Republican primaries. Year after year, same names, same records, same results. Then people turn around in November and complain that nothing ever changes. It's like planting the same seed and blaming the soil. Even worse, many of those incumbents are protected by endorsements, big names, loud rallies, populist slogans. But endorsements follow power, not principle. They always have. For example, DJT endorsed longtime institutional Republicans like Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, Mitt Romney, and many other rhinos, despite years of voting to preserve leadership and control and block structural reform. In fact, 96% of those endorsements have been for incumbents. That doesn't make those endorsements malicious, it makes them political. Endorsements protect power, they don't dismantle it. That's a hard truth for some folks, so instead of wrestling with it, they aim their frustrations at whoever tells it. What's the strategy and why don't you do something? The strategy is engagement. It always has been. Winning GOP primaries matter. Local races matters. Boring meetings matter. Making phone calls, knocking on doors, and raising money for conservative candidates matter. But that takes hard work, doesn't it? And hard work is not something that social media warriors want to be bothered with. They'd rather take 15 seconds to vent their outrage before returning to mindless sitcoms, pointless rallies, and a life of political inaction. Folks, there is no shortcut, no savior, no single vote that fixes a broken system built to protect itself. Here it is, plain and simple. In a republic, voters don't just choose leaders, they choose whether reform is even possible. If you keep sending the same people back, don't act surprised when the system stays the same. It's not broken, it's doing exactly what it was designed to do. The only thing that ever changes is when people finally decide to change themselves, and that's a harder fight than passing any bill. Like I said, several things here that really stick out. It is a tough thing to say. Chris is known for saying those things and having those conversations, and I respect that. It's one of those things that we talked about. Stand the Gap and Merge Mississippi is all about is having those hard conversations and pointing those things out. We're not really worried about ruffling any feathers. We knew we were going to do that. We knew we were going to say things that weren't very popular, but we were also going to give everybody an opportunity to explain themselves and to talk about why these things never change. And while a lot of the blame does fall on these elected officials, we have to really look back on ourselves and think about what we're doing to help change this. I know in Rankin County, our voter turnout was like less than 10% on this last election, which is really sad. It really is. You know that we're not getting out there to vote, that we're not engaging the system, and then we turn around and kind of complain about things. I think a lot of people right now with Trump in office, he's done a great job. I think we get really comfortable and complacent with what's going on, and we think, you know what, he's got the White House, we're good. Gas prices are down, groceries are more affordable. Um, by all means, we're in a much better place as if the other side would have got that election. Not just because it's the other side, but because of the candidates and the radical ideas that they had pushing. But what Chris is saying really holds a Christian Judeo worldview of ideas about sin, power, and redemption applied to civic life. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Speaking hard truth, despite resistance, is what this really shows. The post opens with "This may hurt some feelings" and reflects on stories of and the roles of biblical prophets like Jeremiah and Ezekiel, who were called to proclaim difficult messages from God to wayward leaders and people, often at personal cost. That tends to bring that about. You know, whenever you don't go with the crowd and you're saying these things and calling these things out, it does tend to bring some backlash. But Scripture encourages speaking truth boldly, but with integrity and not being afraid to hurt feelings. Proverbs 12 says, "Whoever speaks the truth gives honest evidence, but a false witness utters deceit." In Psalm 15, it praises those who keep an oath even when it hurts, and to speak from truth from the heart. I think it's important that we have leaders who aren't afraid to do this. Like I said, most nowadays just go along to get along, and that seems to be the popular narrative in politics and among establishment politicians. This is certainly an example of taking the arrows, as he says. Um, Things you're not supposed to say out loud, but what he's saying encourages intellectual honesty in politics, and this counters echo chambers and superficial civics education, or the status quo, if you will. Um, it backs up the claim that these systems actually sustain and survive through discipline, not just ideas, which is a critique on how power operates, fostering informed voter engagement rather than blind loyalty. Excuse me. Reaping what you sow. The analogy is like planting the same seed and blaming the soil. It speaks for itself. It's like electing the same people and expecting different results. In Galatians, it states, "Don't be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever one sows, he will also reap." Another notes that sparse seeding leads to sparse reaping. This can be exemplified to voters, like I just said, renominating the same incumbents year after year, then complaining about unchanged outcomes. So it is true, personal and collective choices yield predictable results. The same as biblical warnings against repeating folly. So this is not just blaming abstract systems, but the notion that personal responsibility, engaging the system, and the belief that individuals can shape their own lives through their choices and actions. This promotes accountability, and it should. So reform starts with consistent, deliberate action, rather than expecting miracles from the same flawed inputs. There's corruption in leadership and the nature of power in that. It's a critique on how power follows numbers, like he said, and leadership uses rewards and punishments to maintain control. It reflects spiritual cautions about corrupt rulers. Proverbs 28 warns a lawless nation will have many bad leaders. And Romans 13 implies true authority should reward good and punish evil, not self preserve. We've said this in the past that God anoints and God appoints, and a nation gets the leaders it deserves. So, kind of speaks for itself. A lying tongue hates those it wounds and crushes a flattering mouth works ruins. This is where we have to be careful about the endorsements protecting power over principles. It's a warning of self-flattery and self-interest, and pushing to re-elect rhinos and people that have been in power for a long time that are disconnected for the people or just looking for self-preservation. All they're looking at really is just trying to win the next election. Biblically, power is often depicted as corruption requiring vigilant oversight. It also demystifies politics by, explaining mechanics like committee assignments and fundraising, which empower ordinary citizens. So when we see endorsements of 96% incumbents, we have to be weary of encouraging discernment over hero worship and reveal how populist slogans, as he said, can mask inertia. I think Trump knew what he was doing when he carried that weight when those people that they carried some weight, they carried votes, and therefore endorsing them helped support for him. We can just really hope that their true works come to light, and he helps to elect true conservatives this next time around. Um, who are really going to put into effect true change that represents the people. So it's a call to diligence that hard work over shortcuts work. We do see these social media warriors come out of the woodwork who prefer outrage over action. It is true what he says, hard work like knocking on doors and local involvement is the work we should be participating in. Proverbs 14 has an emphasis on diligence. Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands make wealth. Proverbs 12 states diligent hands will rule, but laziness ends for enforced labor. And even as early as Genesis, we see that Scripture portrays work as a divine mandate. So we need to be doing that hard work. We need to be doing stuff like this. These are things that are required of us. True change demands sustained effort, not messianic figures. People that feel like they are deserved or just are supposed to be in office because of names or who they are. But politics should be accessible to everybody. It should be focused on primaries and local races where individuals can actually influence outcomes. This grassroots approach is practical and scalable, countering the allure of pointless rallies and tangible steps that could lead to real structural reform like term limits. If they were widely adopted, I'm all for term limits. We have it at the governor's level. I think we should have it at the state level as well, and we should also definitely have it at the federal level. Personal and collective change as a path to reform. It's kind of my last point on this. Repentance and changing ourselves and changing from old ways is what Chris closes on. Chronicles 7 calls for humility and turning from wickedness from national healing. Ezekiel 18 urges for I take no pleasure in the death of anyone, declares the sovereign Lord. Repent and live. Our republic reflects the choices of the voters, just how Scripture holds communities accountable for their leaders. A nation gets the leaders they deserve. I just said that. I said this early on. Israel's um, kings mirrored national faithfulness, as should our leaders of today. They should be looking for the overall good of man and not just themselves. We should be empowering individuals to systematic change and personal responsibility, avoiding fatalism. This is psychologically sound change that starts internally and is politically astute at times. Reforms fail without broad support, and he emphasizes a cultural shift toward active citizenship. Like I said earlier, under 10% of voters last time in Rankin County, for example, is simply sad. We're seeing politics through a lens of fallen human nature, I think, right now. People are getting tired of it and they don't feel like their voices are being heard. That's starts to create a dangerous climate because then bills get passed, things happen, and the next thing you know, we turn around, it's wrapped in a law, and we're like, where did this come from? Our strengths lay in unflinching honesty, which should inspire disillusioned conservatives to engage more deeply. It does risk alienating those attached to personalities over principles, but who cares? Like I said earlier, we're gonna talk about the good ones. We're gonna talk about the people that we feel are fighting for that stuff, and we're gonna give them the respect and the time on air whenever we see that it is due. We're seeing politics, like I said, through a lens of fallen nature, and we should be calling for righteous action. Our strengths lay in unflinching honesty, which should inspire disillusioned conservatives to engage more deeply. Yes, this does risk alienating those attached to personalities over principles, like I just said, but who cares? Overall, this blends tough love with hope, much like biblical exhortations. I said this early on, we would be saying things that ruffled feathers that may not be popular, but this is about accountability to ourselves, our families, our republic, and our God. We must look internally for change first and then engage where God is calling us to go and do. That's the whole point behind all of this. We have to call out the powers that be. We have to make sure that we're speaking up for the people, true conservative values and principles, biblical principles, and find the people that are sticking to that and making sure that they're passing legislation that is also good for man and is a biblical concept. So we're going to change gears a little bit and talk about some of the things that I've seen recently that kind of sparked some debate. I saw something happen recently over at JSU. They are actually dealing with a little debacle with an organization, Mississippi Votes. So JSU Votes is basically it's an entity focused on combating voter apathy and antipathy amongst Gen Z and Gen Alpha. For the spring 2026 semester, they've partnered with the League of Women Voters, Jackson Chapter, and City of Jackson Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement to develop some events to engage the youth in 2026 congressional races. But from their Facebook post, basically what had happened was, in an effort, they were told that they had to report to this group and basically not allow another group to participate in their organization's functions. And this is what they said. This is from their Facebook post. In an effort to suppress our efforts to maximize civic engagement, regardless of political affiliations, the JSU Student Affairs staff is trying to make us report to Mississippi Votes so certain demographics can be excluded from our collaborating with us and attending our events. We acknowledge Mississippi Votes was our founding sponsor, but when they wanted to terminate our advisor and attempted to exclude engagement with like-minded organizations, we chose to follow his nonpartisan leadership and cut all ties with Mississippi Votes because we believe in unity and he educated and mentored us to understand the importance of inclusion when battling voter apathy and promoting civic engagement. So kudos to them. This hostile takeover not only violates university policy, as student organizations must have and university employed an advisor and not report to non-employed persons or organizations, but it also highlights and underscores Malcolm X's famous quote, "We are not outnumbered, we are out-organized." It is a prime illustration of Afro-Americans refusing to unite for a common cause due to personal prejudice and jealousy. So they're asking to help them fight this hostile takeover, specifically designed to hinder their civic engagement and awareness campaign by contacting some of the people over at their university, um, and to help them figure out why they have to be controlled by a partisan non-JSU entity instead of their bipartisan staff and faculty advisors. They've tried, but they feel like they're being ignored, and they refuse to meet with them while he is present. So they actually responded to one of their. We admit they were our first sponsor and our advisor recruited and created us for them, but they wanted slash want us to be polarizing like them, and that partisan